Well, fine, good afternoon all. This is Patricia and I am traveling for history. I am in Brownington, Vermont today, and I'm about to take a tour of the Old Stone House Museum. So, you can see on the front, well maybe you can see on the front, it says Orleans County Historical Society, Athenian Hall. And the building I'm standing in front of right now is the Alexander Twilight house, built 1830. I'm about to take a tour, and I have permission to film it. So, here we go.
Patricia, and you are?
Angela.
Angela?
Bill. My husband.
Bill. Okay. Nice to meet you guys. And you are right now in the oldest historical society in the state.
Nice.
That's a little bit of a claim to fame. Other than that, the big claim to fame is the guy that we belong to, is Alexander Twilight. There's a lot of panels to read, which has to do with, it's called In a Different Hue, how race is represented.
Wow.
I leave that up to you to read that, because to me it's about this gentleman right here. And Alexander was born to Ichabod and Mary Twilight. Mr. Twilight was an African-American gentleman. His mother, we know nothing, except her name was Mary. We believe she was a mulatto woman, but we're nothing written, nothing.
Kind of based on how he looks, huh?
Yeah, but
yeah, probably a homemade on his hair.
that's exactly what I was thinking too. Yeah, and well, he was born in Vermont in 1795. And according to the Corinthian records, the Twilights were the first Negroes to live there. Well, they only saw the guy anyway. They go by the head of household. They didn't give a hoot if anybody else was there or not. You're head of household because you, my dear, and you, my dear, did not have a name on a census form until 1850. You were in the first federal census was 1790. So you were a number under a certain age group for white females.
Right.
So there you go. Wow. Anyway, so according to them,
almost like the slave registry, similar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, when he was 8 years of age, his parents indentured him out to a neighboring farmer to earn some more money for the family. Evidently, his father, Ichabod, wasn't that good of a farmer. That's what they say. I don't know if that's right or not. But plus, they had 5 other children at their home anyway. So he was indentured out. He was with that farmer for 12 years. So at the age of 20, he leaves the farmer. He did get an education from the farmer. He goes to the Orange County Grammar School in Randolph. Graduates Randolph in 6 years. So you figure grammar school. Grammar school back then took you through junior high, high school, and 2 years of college. Wow. He goes to Middlebury College in 1821, graduates Middlebury College in 2 years with a baccalaureate in education because he wanted to be a teacher. And he was. He goes to Peru, New York, and Alexander was the first African-American descent person to graduate from Middlebury or any American college.
Wow.
And you know they're looking. If they find someone else, that is absolutely fantastic because we belong to him. That's it. So he goes to Peru, New York after that, and he teaches there, and he meets this lady. That is Mercy Ladd Merrill. I'm doing her genealogy. I've only gone back to 1708, but as it looks right now, she's, I say, white as the driven snow. All European, English, and Irish so far. So other than that, I haven't gone any further because, like I said, I've hit that nasty wall. So she was in Peru, New York, teaching. When she got married, she could no longer teach because a married woman could not teach school. Mm-hmm. A married woman, if she was a nurse, when she got married, she could no longer be a nurse. So, you had it a little strange. So here in Brownington, okay, they need a new headmaster for the school. This is 1829. And they contact Mr. Twilight. I did have a little young guy, when I said that they contacted Mr. Twilight. And this little guy said, did they find him on Facebook? No, they did not find him on Facebook. Not quite. We're a little bit, no. And so anyway, so he and his wife get here in 1829, and he takes up the headmastership for the academy here. This is the academy. It is not a tourable building. Hopefully it will be pretty soon. And it is a boarding school. So you've got kids from all over Orleans County, and there was Okay, we have 6 of the original rosters, that's all we have. And so it gives the kids' name, where they were from, where they stayed. So, you've got kids from all over Orleans County going to school here. All the other kids came out of the eastern townships of Quebec to come to school here in Little Brownington, okay? And the Twilights built this house in 1830. It is advertised as a boarding house. At one time, they had 11 girls living upstairs, and they had no children of their own. So that's why I tell people, that's why they couldn't handle the ruckus up there, so why add to it? But that's not the reason. And the other kids stayed with neighbors. So in right around 1833, he goes to the town, he goes, look, I don't have any more room. Nobody has room. Will you build a boarding house for these kids? And they say, no, we won't. You don't need it. Nobody needs it, and we can't afford it. So Mr. Twilight takes it upon himself to build a boarding house. That's what that granite building was the boarding house for the kids. It was a co-ed dorm. Girls on 2nd floor, boys on 3rd floor. And according to one roster, there were times when boys and girls were on the same floors. So it's not a new concept, the co-ed dorms. And it was because the girls made up 1/3 of the enrollment. So there were more boys going to school than there were girls. So, but 1/3 is pretty good. It's pretty good. So he builds that building. It was started in 1834, finished in 1836. And the kids move in, okay? Okay, now we have a lot of stories from former students. You figure, former students, what do you hear about those former students? That's the 2000s. Now, that was 1800s. In the late 1890s, early 1900s, they held reunions here with former students, and they wrote stories down, what he looked like, what he sounded like, how he walked, how he taught, how he waved his hand, and how he demanded excellence, but with humor. So we're lucky. We're very lucky to have that. And they really liked the guy. He was a good teacher. They said he was very bronzed of face and hand. That's all they ever saw. They said he walked very heavily. And his jovial laugh, he would break out in laughter with something silly was said for an answer or something. But he did demand you to learn, and they did learn. In 1836 now, though, Craftsbury, Vermont had their own school, okay? So now you've got Craftsbury with a school and Brownington, the only school in the county. This school here in Brownington got their money from land rents. Farmers would rent other people's lands to hay, and so they would rent that or to use. So that's how Brownington got the money for their schools. Well, Craftsbury wants to share that. You think Twilight wants to share that? He does not want to share that. He is thinking, why do you want a couple so-so schools when you can have a grand school who can offer your child anything, right? So he was elected to the Vermont legislature in about 1836, and he was there to fight that whole thing. We don't want it. Nobody wants it. Well, it didn't work. So other schools were built. Didn't hurt the enrollment here, though. So, and he is also a preacher. He studied the ministry. He's an ordained congregational minister. He was ordained right here. You have to understand that Brownington was a very, very conservative congregational neighborhood. Okay, very conservative. Excommunications were done by the bucket. If you didn't pray enough, the elders would come to the school and question the student, the local kids. How do you pray before you eat? How often do you pray during the day? If they didn't like the answer they did, this is written in the church record. If they didn't like the answer they got, they would go to your home at supper time, which was normally 5 o'clock. They ate anywhere from 4 a.m. to 6 a.m. in the morning, 12 o'clock lunch or dinner, and then 5 o'clock for supper. They were known to go to your home and peek in your windows to see if when you sat down and you didn't say a prayer before you took that first mouthful of food. True story. And they excommunicated a whole Robinson family. In fact, he was brought up to what they called church trial, which is he had to get up in front of the congregation and give his confession. And if they thought he was sincere enough, and then if he improved after his confession, he was okay. If not, No, they excommunicated the whole family because of it. So that's just what they did. There's a great excommunication story in that building. So anyway, and Twilight, being a minister, you would think that he would demand you to go to church, okay? He did, up until the age of 18, because you were from the age of 12 to 21 going to school here. High school through college, okay, 2 years of college. And so he said, when you're 18, why don't you start thinking for yourself? You're an adult. So the church is a little miffed with him because he didn't force that issue. And so it was a lot of arguments he had with his town over the education. He was too progressive. He let girls take science, for gosh sake. Oh, golly. And his religious practices. They wrote that he verged on unfaithfulness because of that. But anyway,
Yeah.
so there was a lot of arguments, but we don't know what happened in 1840, right around 1846. We don't know if he was fired or if he quit. Whichever one it was, they told him, you can't teach anywhere in the county of Orleans. You are done. So, Twilight he and his wife pack up and they go to Canada. And they teach up around Hatley and Shipton, Quebec, which is now Richmond, Quebec. But enrollment here starts tanking. It's going down the tubes because younger siblings of the kids going to school here want to go to school where he was because he was fun and you learned something. So they close the school for a few semesters. And that goes on. They'll open it back up and they close it. And the next year they open it, close it. And just on and off for 5 years they did that. So they have a meeting in the later part of 1851 with the town. The town says, we do not want to do this, but we have to do this. We've got to get him back here. So they go to Canada and bring him back. And he continues teaching, but they won't let him preach here because he verges on unfaithfulness. They won't let him preach here. So, but he did continue teaching, which was fantastic for the kids and for him too. But he suffers a stroke in 1855 and he passes away in 1857 because he suffered another one in 1857 and they took him. And I believe he was 63 when that happened. But he left his wife, that lovely lady, in massive debt. He had to buy some of the land. Some of the land was donated by Cyrus Eaton. But he had to pay to have that place built. So she's in debt. What is she going to do? She's not making any income, okay? The school enrollment starts going down again. So there's nobody is going to stay in that boarding house anymore. There's not enough kids going to school there. So she sells this house. What you need to know about her was that she was part of the Temperance League, and she was a good Templar. No public drink. None. Right? None of it, right? So what is she to do? So she sells this house and she moves into the boarding house and she opens it up as a boarding house for travelers. Great stop on the way to Montreal. She also had a tavern in there. That naughty lady, right? But we do know that a tavern would be a place to get a hot meal.
Sure.
But we have in our possession a letter that she wrote to the town commissioners in March of 1864. So she's been there 5 years. Part of it reads, Mr. Alcohol and I have been on very amicable terms. I no longer require the need now to renew my liquor license. It is up to you. So she did sell it because she knew what she had to do to get along, get her bills paid. She was a savvy businesswoman. And then she fell over here in 1874. She broke her shin bone in 2 places. She snapped it on her shin and moved to Derby, lived with her sister, and passed away in 1878 of typhoid fever.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And if you find the obituaries, okay, Twilight's was 3 lines. Mr. Twilight's was 3 lines long, just announcing that he died. And did the town not want to bother? Because, they didn't care for him anyway. The kids did, but it didn't matter. Or was it up to Mrs. Twilight and she couldn't afford it? So, but her obituary is that long.
Yay.
And it is a fantastic read. They need to post it up. It is a fantastic read. The church would give her small monetary donations, but food donations. And she could be seen in her horse and buggy taking her donations to other people that she thought were in more of a need of it than she was. So she was quite the girl. So she cannot be forgotten. She did some good things. She cooked in there for about 63 kids too.
Wow.
Yeah. That's his Bible. It's got brown spots on it. Mr. Twilight was a known tobacco chewer. And the story that goes to this from a former student, he was up in the pulpit sermonizing one day, and evidently he had that in his cheek and gum, and he had an attack of the sneezes.
Oh.
And so that's spittle DNA right there. And it hit the whole front row of girls too. So not a very good
I
one.
remember about that. I've heard about that before, the doll
The
test.
don't test, yeah. These are great panels to read. It just makes you go, really? Because I had never heard of the paper bag test. I
No,
never
I
heard of
haven't
that.
heard of that one.
If you match that color, if you were that light or lighter, you could go in.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. It.
If you get to New York, you would enjoy the musical Suffs. It's about the suffrage movement.
Oh, I would love to do that.
It's fabulous. The Music Box Theater.
Oh, I would love to.
You can easily find it.
I'm always here.
West 45th.
West 45th.
Yeah, it won the Tony for Best Book and something else as well. Yeah, I stay with my friend in New Jersey and we just saw it just Wednesday.
We're going to go down. A friend of mine and myself are going to go down and see a show.
In New York?
Yeah.
Look into that one.
Yeah, because we're going to stay down there for 4 days. Yeah. We rented a brownstone. So
Yes,
it's
yeah.
fun. Yeah.
It's pretty fabulous.
Yeah, I bet it is.
So do we go to
We're
that
going to go
side
across the street.
Oh, okay.
The Historical Society bought this building in 1916 for $500 because when Mrs. Twilight passed away, it went back to the town. The town took it over. And one of the main reasons the Historical Society bought it was the town of Brownington wanted to tear it down and used to donate the bridge. So if they had, what a loss that would have been.
Yeah.
And there's 4 floors to this building. You'll go at all 4 if you want. And there is nothing left in that building that was there when the kids were there.
Oh.
It's all 19th century collections from donations and the like. In the very early 1900s, before the Historical Society actually spotted windows were busted out, beds were taken, tables were taken, dishes were taken, and it was just
Wow.
it was stripped.
Any idea who stripped it?
Nope.
Local people.
Have no idea.
Opportunists.
Firewood, they were known to have bonfires in the fields. So it is full of 19th century collections from all this time. If there's any wasps around here, just be careful. They pretty much left the doorway.
Oh, yeah, good nest up there.
Yeah, that's vacant though. I mean, that is there. There's nobody living in
Oh,
it.
I see them out there.
Yeah. There's a space up there. There's a broken piece of granite up there. And I think they're getting into the crawl space. Across the fourth
Need to get
Thank you.
Jeff, Jeff that does Stonehouse Revival.
Yes.
Wow, look at this place.
Great, isn't he? He's fabulous. His show's not on anymore, but you can get reruns sometimes.
I love to watch the old reruns.
Yeah. Oh, look, Hannah.
She's a lapidary. Really?
Oh, I love
This was
love this kind of
this is
fireplace.
called a hot water heater because they built a fire down there, water in there. So this was built into the place. So we know this is
That's
original.
pretty smart.
Yeah,
That's
it is.
smart. Yeah.
And the steam would escape right up through here. Well, my father came in here in 1916. He came in with his father, and he would have been 14. And he said there was a cauldron to the left. He wrote this in this booklet. He said, but there looked like the parts of an iron stove that were here. We know they had an iron stove in here, but we didn't know where. But I went, there's no stovepipe hole, but, so I decided to investigate. So I got inside here, and I stood up in there, and yes, right up here to your right, you see a cobweb up there, is a stovepipe hole that goes right into, I believe, the beehive of the fireplace. So I think he was right.
1916?
Yeah, I think he was right, because he said there was a lot of damage. He wrote this, he didn't say it. You're right there, yeah. So, and you know, they would have had to have patched these walls, because it was tore up.
Oh, yeah.
And then if you look to the other side, you see where it went
Yeah,
into
it
the
would have
behind of the
gone,
chimney.
yeah.
So I think he was right. I really think he was right. He usually was. This, we have this here because Twilight liked rocks.
Oh, and there's the stovepipe
He lived in Norway.
right there.
And local stuff, but he also corresponded with people in other states and in other countries, and they would trade off. So this was we have this here because Twilight loved minerals.
Everything accurate? He usually finds little mistakes in
Okay,
other
cool.
places. He's pretty accurate about what it is and where they're from. Yeah, every once in a while he'll get stumped, but
When we got this thing, though,
it's a lot.
there was nothing in the shape, nothing in the case.
Lots of
And
them.
This is the person who wrote the.
Oh.
Hi, I'm sorry, I got lost.
Oh, I understand that. Well, welcome. What's your name?
I'm Sarah.
Nice to meet you, Sarah. When we first got this unit, there was nothing in the case. It was two pieces.
Yeah, it's a nice
It was an
place.
empty case, empty drawers, no, the drawers weren't empty. But there were boxes of minerals, and when we got it, before we opened the boxes, we go, where the heck we go, how do we know what goes where? Well, all the labels on the rocks were all packed,
Oh, wow.
their own separate.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so,
Made it easy for the
Yeah.
most part.
yeah. This is the boarding house, this building here. And it's co-ed. The girls lived on second, boys on third. And there were tons of them. Oh, goodness.
Scandalous.
Scandalous, I am looking for little rendezvous, because you know they had like a first kiss outside. You know they did. So, sorry you missed them. Oh, I'm so sorry.
It's okay, it's still.
But, tire set?
Yeah, and then Mrs. Twilight cooked in here, and at one time there were 63 kids living in this building.
Oh,
Yeah. She was cooked right over here. Yeah, her name was Mercy Ladd Merrill, and then she married Alexander Twilight. Yeah, Twilight's wife, who was, Alexander was a teacher here, African-American descent teacher here.
Did they feed the children in waves? I mean, in shifts?
They fed the kids in there. That was their chow hall,
Good
their
Lord.
dining room. They had tables set up. That open window thing here, the opening was not here. Mrs. Twilight put that in when she had her tavern and her boarding house. Yeah.
Smart woman.
this used for?
That was a bathtub. You sit right there.
Like a tip?
Mm.
Almost like what they call them the tip baths.
Just sit right there, and 4 or 5 people would take on a bath at the same time.
Yeah, but you
they
wouldn't
would
be the
use it-
first one.
Yes, right, because they would use the same water. And they only took, here, as far as we know from what the former students wrote, a bath was required every Saturday.
Well,
You
thank
had
goodness
to
for
be-
that.
You had to be clean for church. They did have little pitchers and basins upstairs in their room so they could wash up each day. You know, and they also had, well, y'all know what a chamber pot is. Do you know what a chamber pot was also called in some places? A gazunder, because it goes under the bed. That's true.
Never
I
heard
did not
that.
make that up. That's true.
So you
Go-
get to smell
Go get
while
your
you're sitting.
gazunder. That's yeah. God forbid using that.
And don't be outside the windows.
That's right, using that chamber pot in the middle of the night, you got 4 people sleeping in a room. Who's gonna? They took turns emptying that thing. Each day a different kid emptied their
Sounds fair.
thing out. And they had indoor water. This is a cistern.
Oh, wow.
There was another one out back that was lined in granite and brick, and it collected rainfall and snow melt. And
Pretty
it was,
modern,
there was,
really.
yeah, it was. There was a hole somewhere in that back wall. It's been filled in, but this is part of the original lead pipe that they pulled out of there. That's how the water was piped in. They did have a well also, which was out front, or here on the side, I mean. But that is part of the original lead pipe.
So this was like running water?
Yeah, it was piped in through here. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Which was really quite modern for around here.
Oh, yeah.
In the 1830s. So,
I don't know when they invented running water, so.
I don't either. But
Not
it
that
was-
early, usually.
It was after that. But Mr. Twilight had a hand in the design of this building. He knew what he wanted. Knew exactly what he wanted. Yeah, and that is a swing churn.
Yeah, I've never seen one like
Yeah,
that. That's so
and
interesting.
out in that barn, at least I think it's still there, there's one that's twice the size. But there's also a little treadmill, a whole treadmill out there, okay?
In the 1830s, weren't those still being used as torture devices?
Yeah, but not here. Well, but depending on who you're torturing. It wasn't really torture. But what they would do is they would hook a rod to that wheel of that small treadmill and hook it onto here, however, and they would put a goat on there with bait, and that goat would tread and it would churn that butter. And there's on the other side of the barn, the left-hand side of the barn, there's a huge treadmill. There are ones that are bigger, we just don't have the double one, they were doubled. This is for a horse. You put a horse on it, but they attach a rod to the wheel of that big one and attach it to a saw, and it would help them saw wood a lot faster than like this. Yep. Sorry, I thought it was, I came in when I was 10 years of age, and I thought it was a baby cradle.
Pretty good guess for
Yeah, it
Tim.
looks like a bassinet. I mean, it's shaped like it. Is this a churn of some sort as well?
Pardon me?
Is this a churn of
No,
Oh, a
that
press?
is a washing machine.
Oh.
Yeah, okay. This does not
the
move.
agitator.
This doesn't move, this does. So water, soap flakes, whatever they wash
Yeah.
with, and clothing. And then you put this back on. It is spring loaded under here.
Oh.
You
wow.
take this, I won't pull it past the spring, but you would
Right.
go, it would cause that
agitator.
plate
Wow.
to move.
Interesting.
And then
Never
do
seen
the
one
same
of those
thing
either.
with rinsing your clothing also.
So this was this all in this room?
No.
No, okay.
None of this was even here, because you missed that part too. In the early 1900s, these bottom windows were busted out. They took every bed, every table, every dish. That was it that the kids used in there. So this is just full of 19th century collections from Orleans County, with some stories that, and they're true stories because they were from former students that reunioned here in the late 1800s. And they were elderly then, you know, and so they're stories from them.
So what was this? What was this for?
Yeah, well, this thing,
Your guess is
I
young
thought
one?
it was a baby
Yeah,
bath.
that also looks like a bassinet.
My father asked me the same question when I was 10. I said, well, a baby would be in here and hold on here, and you pour water and you can wash that child.
Oh my god.
But that's not what it is. It washes butter.
Really?
Figure that one.
How do you wash
Make butter in here, okay? Scoop it out, you put it in a container, you've got to chill that butter. So you put it in the cold room. The cold room here was out that door. I mean, we can't go out there. Had a lot of damage out there. It's going to be fixed up though. So you put it out in the cold room to really form and hard.
Solidify.
You bring it in here, or wherever building you were at. You line it with like cheesecloth or muslin. You put that hunk of butter down here. You put another piece of cloth over this rack here. You pour water over it. And you swish it back and forth. Because you had to get the whey off that butter, because it would rancid really fast with that whey on
Because
there.
butter itself lasts a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You get that whey off.
What
But
is
this
this
here, I try to.
Is that the wicker? Or-
Nope, there's no cheat sheet for this.
You see
Any
this on the
ideas?
sheet, honey?
It's used in the kitchen.
Gotcha.
Oops.
Sorry.
Watch that block. It does move a little tiny bit faster than that. It's just a
Does
little
it
cold.
cut?
Pardon me?
Does it cut?
Nope. But it is used in the kitchen.
Can something go in there? Does it churn something?
That go into where?
Go into this thing that's spinning?
Nope.
No,
Nothing
so
goes
it's not
into that.
churning.
Well,
No.
there's kind of a net thing, so whatever it is, does it go out into that section?
Whatever
of the back?
is there ends up in that
In the
netted
back.
area, yeah? I thought you put herbs or dried herbs on that, and it might crush them and spit them through that little chute that goes into the cage, but that's not it. It wasn't
Do you have
herbs.
any idea of
It
any?
wasn't herbs.
I've never seen one.
It's a fly trap. I know. I know.
believe.
I'm serious. It's Vermont ingenuity. You bait all four sides of this block with like maple syrup, honey, or whatever flies like. They land on it. Not so many are landing on her bread dough. She doesn't have to swish quite so many away. It's moving slowly. They don't really realize it. They're having a wonderful treat. They end up down here. They can't get back out through here because that block blocks it as it turns. Can't come out through here because this blocks it. So they seek the light. And there's that little tunnel that goes right into this net. And they see the light. So they go, there it is. And they end up in there alive.
Wow.
There's bees and flies and gnats and mosquitoes. And then at the end of the day, when she's all done, the last thing she does is take this off and take it outside and lets them go.
Yeah.
So it doesn't kill them.
Wow.
It is a have-a-heart program.
That's really interesting.
Yeah, and it was made in Barton, I believe, in about 1867. It was patented. Of course, the patent has run out, but it is ingenious, and we've tried it, and we just have to put it in a place where there's a lot of flies, you know. And we have caught some. So, and people want it for their camp, you know. But, and on a full wind, it'll go 2.5 to 3 hours.
Wow.
Yep. And these marks on the floor, and those floorboards are different. There was a lightning strike, and these ceilings were all on fire. And that's from the ceiling, burning ceiling falling onto the
Wow.
Yep. Same marks are in that room, too.
So good.
Well,
But
if
if
the
you
whole
had a-
building had been wood, it probably would have gone bye-bye, huh?
Gone by that, but the granite will last.
Yeah.
The wood won't, you know, but the granite will last. This room, they had their meals in there. The right-hand side of the room is sort of like under construction. And you may look at anything. If you have a question, just be careful of touching if you will. But first of all, by Adams Female Academy in Derry, New Hampshire. That's what these murals are. These are Rufus Porter murals. He was a traveling artist, and he would go from place to place and say, "Hey, can I paint on your walls?" And he would get free room and board. And he would also be commissioned to paint for a special occasion.
Yeah.
Okay, like I said, they belonged to us, but they weren't here. Adams Female Academy in Derry. They were restoring the school, and they were tearing down walls. The original walls were behind the walls they were tearing down, and these
Which is
all
why
were
they were
here.
protected, yeah.
Yeah, but Rufus has a museum in Maine, and they didn't want them, but the ones they have are pristine now.
Wow.
So
But these
they were
are
not for
still,
auction.
these are
Nobody bid
still,
on them.
yeah, they're still really
Yeah,
interesting.
nobody bid on them, so they were offered to us, and we don't say no to anything.
Right.
But what makes them unique, at least to me, these girls wrote all over them.
Oh, they graffitied them.
There's poetry. Phoebe Tenney wrote her name over there. Phoebe Tenney, Newmarket, New Hampshire, August 31st, 1837.
Because they were just on the wall.
Yeah. And it just shows you that kids are kids.
Yeah.
I'll tell you about this railroad in a minute. This is what's under construction. They're wonderful murals, though. That Phoebe Tenney, though, she put her name right here, and you can see. I mean,
Oh, look at that.
right there. She
Wow.
goes, "I am going to be there forever on that wall."
Just the same.
Yes, and that's right. I'm looking them up as to what
That's so cool.
Yes. The ones that dared put the names, you know.
Did you find anything on her?
Not yet. That's what I was doing That's what I do in between tours. I don't have all the time sometimes between tours. But it's this guy that has to do with the railroad. This is William Barstow Strong. He was born and raised in Brownington, went to school here. Twilight was his teacher, okay? When he graduated from the school, he decided to go west, and he did, and he became president of the Atchison, Topeka, Santa Fe Railway.
Wow.
It is also who Barstow, California
I was
is named
gonna
after.
ask.
Sure
You believe
is.
that, honey?
Yep, sure
Yeah,
is.
Barstow, boy, that's a real pretty place.
I know. And there used to be, we went.
You know how facetious I'm being about
Oh,
that.
I sure do. We
Yeah.
went there, I think, once. And part of this, in part of that little place, there was this big, like, cement wall. And it
In
had this
Barstow
painting.
itself?
Yeah, it had this
Yeah.
painting of this guy, and it's him.
Wow.
I didn't know it then, you know, but yeah. So Barstow, California is named after this little guy who came from little old Brownington, Vermont.
Yeah.
Yep, and
Everything's
What is Uncle
interconnected.
Tom's cabin?
I will tell you about that in just a second. Yes, I will. But that's why that railroad thing is being built, because we have a small scale model of the Atchison, Topeka, Santa Fe. And the guy who's doing it, he's been at this for months. I did tell him the other day, I said, it's taking you longer to build this than it did the transcontinental railroad. But it's because it's been so humid in that Casa Claris. Will be dry, but it'll be ready next year. But we also want to try to make it a little more kid-friendly parts of it, you know? We're under kid-friendly, not kid-friendly, but kids love trains. Adults love trains.
Trains are great.
They are great. So, the Uncle Tom's Cabin, that is a little, right there. That little, okay? We have the wall that it came off, the actual wall. It came off the old East Side restaurant in Newport. And so they gave us the old wall. Well, that wall needs restoration big time. So we had a litho made of it. It is now being, well, hasn't quite started yet because we need about $7,000 more. We've raised 11.5 so far. But I didn't realize what it entailed, because those brown spots up there, that's paper that he's peeled off. We have those pieces. So I thought they were just going to put it on there and just make it look better. They're going to take, on the original wall, they're going to take that whole thing off. How they're going to do it, I don't know. They're going to take it all off and then piece it together and put it back on the wall. Yeah.
So why does it say that?
At Uncle Tom's Cabin, it was an advertisement for the traveling play. We did in the 1890s.
The one that ends up in King and I.
But yeah, they did it, it was for the traveling place, and then they also used them for the old minstrel shows they used to have when the people went in blackface.
Yeah.
They used these Uncle Tom's Cabin signs. And
Yeah, they were still doing it not that long ago. So finally people are having enough of the fit that people have to stop.
yeah, 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 blackface, oh yeah.
White people moving.
Yeah. UVM used to have,
Vaudeville used to do a
oh
lot.
yeah, UVM had what they call a walk for the cake, cakewalk. And they would have the tallest white guy go in blackface and put on his tuxedo and a spats and everything and march down the hall and like on homecoming. Well, it was beginning to get some of the few African Americans who were going to UVM at that time, you know. Why do I bring this up? My sister-in-law, myself, and a bunch of other people who were going to UVM decided we need to stop this, just to make our friends feel better. Sure. From nothing else. So we chained ourselves to the registrar's the front of his office.
Good for you.
The
Wow.
iron rails, you know, so we chained ourselves to that day. That was in 1969, and they haven't had one since. So,
So big.
yeah.
Talking about a play in New York called Subs, which is for the suffrage movement.
Yeah.
It's really, really, really good.
That's a revival.
Huh?
That was in 1969. Is that what you're saying?
No.
I'm sorry, I'm confused.
Oh, no.
When did you change yourself in front of something?
1969. That's where I changed myself in front of the registrar's office. So they would stop having somebody go on blackface. If you want somebody to be black and do that, ask a black guy to do it.
Okay.
Yeah, that's so sorry.
I was trying to,
Yeah, there's just so much.
thing.
And then you've got these little fireplaces. The fireplaces are in this room, in the next room, and every single
Oh, they're
room
tiny.
on, yeah, every single room on second floor, which is the girls' floor, has a fireplace. There are no heating units on the boys' floor or on the fourth floor.
And these are original floors?
Most of them are.
They're pretty wide.
Yep, very wide
Older
plans.
trees,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yep,
So same thing from the far from the lightning?
yep,
Yeah.
you're right through here, too.
Didn't run all the way through though.
Nope, well, there was a kid, okay, this strike happened in 1940, okay? But they did have strikes for the kids in here. But in 1940, there was a young 14-year-old boy who was walking past there, and there was smoke and flames going out the windows. Well, nobody has a phone in 1940.
Oh.
At least nobody
Harvey
here.
girls, huh?
And so one person, down Hinwood Settler Road, there was Florence Thompson, who was the switchboard operator, and so she called the fire department and came up and they put it out. Yeah. Yep, all about the Harvey girls, the Harvey houses.
Girls, yeah.
Yeah, Harvey houses,
Yeah.
there were train stops along their route. And we would stay in these lovely
Quite nice with the Harvey girls.
The Harvey girls, yeah. There was a movie about that.
Yeah, it was good.
It's a good movie.
Yep.
That's
Judy
good.
Garland.
Yeah, yeah. It was quite good.
The Harvey houses, like they were on they were right close to the railroad station, and they would stop so long and people could stay there, then they'd take the next train home the next day. Yeah, but yeah, this has nothing to do with that guy, but since he became president of the railroad, they decided to put things about the railroad here. So I have not read every single panel, because I leave that up to people. That's what these benches are for, is for people to sit down. Yeah.
So, are these also for the hold of?
We put those up
Oh, you put them up.
because we put big pieces of wood here in the window in the wintertime, and that's to hold the wood in place.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. Yeah, they were put up by the Historical Society, yeah. And then, in the wintertime, it keeps people out too. They have to break, they want to come in here, they got to break through that wood too. And it's 2x4s.
Had to work for it.
Yes, they have to work for it, is correct. I'm going to shut this door. Yeah, we had an event in here, and so things aren't exactly where they should be. Like I left some stuff in there, some textiles. I was going through some of the textiles because that's what I work with upstairs, and it was a textile show, okay. And I wanted to show one of these fur muffs that the women would use, right? So I knew we had about 5 of them, and they were black. So I just, with the first box, I pulled the closest box, and I pulled it, and it was a black muff. That is not fur. It's human hair.
Oh my gosh.
Uh-huh.
Really?
Wow. Yeah, because I noticed it.
I never heard of
When
that.
you turned it, it flopped like bangs, and it's very, very fine hair.
Wow.
And when pieces of the hair will fall out onto the table.
Yeah.
So this one gentleman came by and he goes, "You think that's human hair?" I said, "Yeah, I do." I said, "I haven't gone to the catalog to look as to what they say about it."
Right.
And he said, "I'll come back. There's this multimeter kind of thingy, I'm not sure exactly what it's called, that you can measure down to the finest millimeter or whatever.
Wow.
And if it's between this and this, it's human hair." And it was well
Wow.
into that, and it is. It's human hair.
I did not know
And
they
it,
made muffs out
I
of
didn't
that.
either. You can see how it's woven on to it, and then it is lined with satin. I was stuffed first of all, and then lined with satin. Yeah, satin. I mean, yeah.
Wow.
It's I know. It sort of creeps you out sometimes.
No kidding.
And Vermonters and Orleans County people, especially if we went into the Civil War, then per capita, Vermont had the most men go into the Civil War than any other state. Not that we were very big, but per capita, yes. And that jacket belonged to that gentleman right there.
Wow.
He was the only 8-year-old who was allowed to go to school here at the age of 8. And he was allowed to go to school here because he had an older brother.
Was 8 too young?
Yeah, ages were 12 to 21.
Oh, 12, okay.
Yeah. But he was allowed to go. So he got a start of a real good education quite early.
Wow.
But he didn't graduate from here because it closed down first.
Did he survive the Civil War?
Yes, he survived the war.
Okay.
He went in as a private. He went in towards the end, like 1863. That's when he went in. He went in as a private, came out about 30 years later as a brigadier general. So this is his brig jacket. This is not a Civil War coat.
Okay.
The other one over there is a Civil War coat.
Wow.
It is. And one thing I didn't know about these uniforms until just recently was, you see the buttons? Look in the center. What do you see in the center? What does it look like?
So I don't know.
If you look, it looks like the letter I.
Oh,
And they did have, that means he was in the infantry.
Oh.
If it had the letter A in there, he was part of the
Artillery.
Yeah. And I did not realize that. And
well, this is probably an officer's coat.
yeah, this was, Colonel Austin's, yeah. Yeah, Orlo Austin. And, but, so I checked just to be sure, and I said, he was in the infantry, so. But yeah, that little, I never knew that, because I don't think I ever looked at a button quite that close. But right in that center is the letter I, and that means he was in the infantry.
Do you have an approximate year for that?
That one there, well, Orlo went in right towards the beginning of it. So, oh my goodness, probably 1862,
Okay.
maybe? No, before that. It was slightly before that. Oh, I don't know the exact date. But that is an actual Civil War. And that little roaring sound you hear is a dehumidifier. If we did not have that dehumidifier going, we would have to take these jackets outside every day in the sun and then brush mold off. With that dehumidifier, we don't have to do that anymore. So, and there were women who went into the Civil War. Some followed their husbands, some followed their boyfriends or their betrothed, and became nurses and matrons and laundresses. But some women went in and dressed as men. There's a lady over here on this poster shows a picture of her and then her dressed as a man. And she was wounded and found out. I don't know if she was the one of the women sent packing, but a lot of the women, when they were found out, they were imprisoned for fighting for their country. I know.
They weren't keeping the Hearthstone warm.
But it's like, don't put them in prison. If you don't want them there, send them home then. But don't put them in prison for that.
So these books that you have around here, these are all for sale in your store?
Yep, I believe so. Yep, unless we've run out of copies, you know.
And then suddenly these disappear too. To the store. To the store.
That's right.
Yeah.
Let me just check to see if the light is on in here. It is. I'll just open the door. If I leave a room, doesn't mean you have to. I'm giving you space. Who was from Canada. He was the first black college medical student graduate from Canada. Okay?
Wow.
He came down to help us fight, and he was one of the people who attended to Lincoln when he was assassinated. Tells about him right up here. Yeah. That's him right there.
Wow. Unbelievable.
You know, and Canada did come down and help us. Not too many were French Canadians. They were actually descendants of men who ran from the Revolutionary War because they were loyalists, and they said, we don't want to be captured by these patriots. So we're going to hightail it or skedaddle on out and go to Canada, and that's what they did. That's what both sides of my family did. They were all loyal to England. They were.
Thanks.
Yeah, we all make mistakes.
Well, don't we? Gosh. Yeah, they were loyal to England. Dang it.
You good?